Israel launched strike on medical complex in Gaza, killing 20. UNO says Bangladesh has no more resources to allocate for Rohingya refugees. Good afternoon and Salam Malaysia Madani. I'm Sahih and you're watching World Today. Palestinians mourn 5 journalists that were killed in an Israeli airstrike targeting the Nasser medical complex in Khan Yunis earlier Monday. The strike claimed at least 20 lives, including medical staff, patients, journalists, and civil defense personnel, according to the Palestinian Ministry of Health in Gaza. Footage shows crowds performing funeral prayers and carrying the journalists' bodies through the streets while chanting, "O Khan Yunis, renewed pride, we escorted Hussam as a martyr." The government media office identified 4 of the journalists as Hussam al-Masri, Muhammad Salama, Mariam Abu Daka, and Moth Abu Taha. The 5th journalist, Ahmed Abu Aziz, later succumbing to his wounds. The office stated the death toll of journalists killed in Gaza since 7 October 2023 has now reached 244. The Israeli military confirmed targeting the vicinity of the hospital in Khan Yunis, affirming that the chief of staff directed an immediate preliminary investigation into the incident. Meanwhile, the UN Secretary-General strongly condemns the killings of Palestinians today in Israeli strikes that hit Nasser Hospital in Khan Yunis in the Gaza Strip. Cameraman Hussam al-Masri, a Reuters contractor, was killed near a live broadcasting position operated by Reuters on an upper floor just below the roof of the hospital in Khan Yunis in an initial strike. Officials at the hospital said Israel then struck the site a second time, killing other journalists as well as rescue workers and medics who had rushed to the scene to help. The journalists killed included Mariam Abu Daga, Muhammad Salama, Muaz Abu Taha, and Ahmed Abu Aziz. Israel's military acknowledged striking the area of Nasser Hospital. The UN Secretary-General reiterates his call for immediate and permanent ceasefire, unfettered humanitarian access across Gaza, and for the immediate and unconditional release of all hostages being held in Gaza. German Vice-Chancellor Lars Klingbeil on Monday announced that Germany, alongside European partners as a Western alliance, are now working together with Ukraine on the question of security guarantees. He said this an intensive process that is still in its early stages and must be shaped by Kiev, with Germany bearing responsibility over the matter. Klingbeil, who will also serve as Germany's finance minister, said in order to achieve that goal, the Ukrainian army needed to be strengthened and arms production inside Ukraine needed to be ramped up. He also made it clear that any negotiations must begin with a ceasefire, meaning that Russian President Vladimir Putin must stop the killing, Klingbeil added. United States President Donald Trump has pressed for a quick end to the war, but Kiev and its allies are concerned he could seek to force an agreement on Russia's terms. Klingbeil said it is now up to Vladimir Putin to show that he has a serious interest in a lasting, just peace. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said on Monday that Kiev aims to secure at least $1 billion monthly from allies to purchase US weapons. Speaking alongside Norwegian Prime Minister Jonas Gahr Store in Kiev, Zelensky praised Norway's decision to join the initiative and highlighted its role in supporting Ukraine's energy security amid Russian attacks.
Норвегія приєдналась до програми Pearl, яка дозволяє купувати зброю в Сполучених Штатах Америки. Наша мета – наповнити цю програму не менше, ніж на $1 мільярд щомісячно. Я про це вже говорив.
Story affirms support for Ukraine's air defense and maritime capabilities, saying that Norway would prefer having a peace agreement with Russia prior to contributing to Western security guarantees for Kiev. Zelensky also said he would meet U.S. Special Envoy Keith Kellogg later today to discuss preparations for a possible future meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin, adding that U.S. and Ukrainian officials are expected to meet on the matter later this week. United States President Donald Trump on Monday welcomed South Korea's new president Lee Jae-myung for talks just after Trump criticized the South Korean government. Trump was commenting on the handling of investigations related to his conservative predecessor, which casted a dark mood over high-stake talks for Lee, who took office in June after a snap election that followed Yoon Suk-yeol's impeachment and removal. Welcoming Lee to the White House Oval Office, Trump said he was open to negotiating aspects of this US-South Korean trade deal and to meeting Kim. Lee showered praise on Trump and said he hoped for Trump to engage with North Korea. South Korea's economy relies heavily on the US, with Washington underwriting its security with troops and nuclear deterrence. Trump has called Seoul a mighty machine that takes advantage of American military protection. On a related note, Lee said that he and Trump discussed modernizing the two countries' alliance during their summit talks. He also said South Korea would expand its defense budget to transform the country's military into a smart military that will prevail in future warfare. China's top legislator Zhai Liji and Vyacheslav Volodin, chairman of the Russian parliament's lower house, the State Duma, co-chaired the 10th meeting of the China-Russia Committee for Parliamentary Cooperation in Beijing on Monday. Both sides committed to continue deepening their bilateral relationship, strengthening strategic coordination, and advancing cooperation in various fields. At the meeting, Zhao, chairman of the National People's Congress (NPC) Standing Committee, said that under the strategic guidance of President Xi Jinping and President Vladimir Putin, the China-Russia Comprehensive Strategic Partnership of Coordination for a New Era has maintained sound, steady and high-level development. In line with the 20th anniversary of the establishment of the China-Russia Committee for Parliamentary Cooperation this year, Zhao said that China's parliamentary body is ready to work with the Federal Assembly of Russia to strengthen exchanges and cooperations to deepen the development of both countries' relations. Zhao urged efforts to enrich the content and expand the forms of mechanism communication and learn from each other in national governance, legislation and supervision on the basis of legislature's duties and functions. Venezuela announced on Monday the deployment of 15,000 military personnel to its border with Colombia to strengthen security and combat drug trafficking in the region. Interior Minister Diosdado Cabello said the operation will focus on the states of Zulia and Takira, utilizing drones, boats, aircraft and other vehicles to patrol the frontier area. The minister stated the deployment aims to reinforce security along the border region and prevent the flow of narcotics. The announcement comes amid the presence of U.S. destroyers in the southern Caribbean as part of anti-drug cartel operations across Latin America. Cabello called on the Colombian government to secure its side of the border crossings in response to the Venezuelan military deployment.
Y esperamos que del lado colombiano hagan lo propio en su frontera para evitar que algún grupo se pueda mover de un lado para otro. La mayor garantía de la tranquilidad de la frontera, que cada quien en su área la custodie como debe ser para luchar contra el narcotráfico.
President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. marked National Heroes Day with a strong message against corruption, calling it the modern-day enemy of the Filipino people. He warned that abuses of power don't just steal money, but also the health, dreams, and future of the Filipino people. Speaking at the Cemetery of the Heroes on Monday, President Marcos said corruption today threatens the future of generations to come. According to local media, the president urged Filipinos to face modern challenges with the same courage shown by national heroes. He said tolerating corruption is a betrayal of those who fought for freedom and of the country's youth whose future was at stake. Marcos vowed accountability, saying, "We will reveal the whole and genuine truth, and we will ensure that disrespect and disregard for our people will never happen again." He also warned against ignoring small lies and abuses, saying this can slowly break down society until the damage becomes irreversible. The president's remarks come amid growing public calls for greater transparency and reform in government. Military officials from Indonesia, the US and other countries commenced in Jakarta on Monday to participate in Super Garuda Shield 2025 SGS-25 drills. The exercises designed to enhance regional stability and interoperability among Indo-Pacific allies. The drills are viewed as the largest ever demonstration of multinational forces in Southeast Asia, bringing together over 5,400 troops from 14 nations. This year's event is expected to merge advanced cyber operations, live fire exercises, and humanitarian simulations. Local media reported that participating personnel exceeded 5,400, including 4,100 Indonesian troops and 1,300 US soldiers, along with forces from 12 other nations such as Australia, Japan, Singapore, France, New Zealand, and the UK. Additionally, 11 countries, including India, Papua New Guinea, and East Timor, sent observers to the exercise. Indonesia upholds a neutral foreign policy, maintaining strong ties with both the US and China. Earlier, Jakarta expressed concerns regarding Chinese encroachment in the South China Sea. However, it continues economic cooperation with Beijing. SGS began in 2007 as a bilateral US-Indonesia exercise focused on peacekeeping and interoperability. Drills are scheduled to take place across multiple Indonesian locations, including Jakarta, Sumatra, and the Riau Islands, and will continue until 4 September. Still to come, more than 34,000 kilograms of illicit drugs seized by US Coast Guard. Stay tuned.
Peralatan elektrik 5 bintang memberikan perkhidmatan 5 bintang.
Bangladesh Chief Advisor Muhammad Yunus on Monday said the country has no scope to allocate more resources for its 1.3 million Rohingya refugees and urged the international community to find a sustainable solution to the crisis. Children make up half of the 1.3 million Rohingya refugees now living in Bangladesh, most of whom fled a brutal 2017 military crackdown in Myanmar that UN investigators call a textbook example of ethnic cleansing. Yunus, the South Asian nation's de facto prime minister, said hosting the refugees has put a huge strain on Bangladesh in areas from its economy and environment to governance. He called for the international community to draft a practical roadmap for their return home. His comments mark the 8th anniversary since more than 700,000 Rohingya arrived within a matter of days, turning the area around the southeastern coastal town of Cox's Bazar into the world's largest refugee settlement. In Bangladesh, the refugees live in a cramped bamboo shelters amid dwindling aid, closed schools, and little hope of return. In a related development, tens of thousands of Rohingya refugees rallied Monday, marking 8 years since their mass exodus from Myanmar. The demonstration was held in the sprawling refugee camps of Cox's Bazar. Footage from the Kutu Palong camp showed crowds holding banners and placards with messages like "No more refugee life" and "Repatriation's the ultimate solution." Chanting slogans and offering prayers, refugees called for justice and demanded safe, dignified and voluntary repatriations to their homeland in Myanmar's Rakhine state. Rohingya activists say returning now would be dangerous due to ongoing conflict in Myanmar. They insist they will not go back without international guarantees of safety, citizenship and basic rights, including education and work. One activist warned that returning during the current war would risk retribution, saying the community wants freedom, not just relocation. Another refugee appealed to the International Committee for Justice, saying they are grateful to Bangladesh for shelter but don't want to remain in camps indefinitely. The day was observed as Rohingya Genocide Remembrance Day, a reminder of the 2017 military crackdown in Myanmar that forced over 1 million Rohingya to flee. Today, more than 1.2 million refugees live across 33 camps in Cox's Bazar, with repatriation efforts stalled due to continued unrest in Rakhine and lack of security assurances. Tensions flared in Jakarta on Monday as police clashed with protesters outside Indonesia's parliament building. The protest, organized by a student group, Kejayaan Memanggil, called for salary cuts for lawmakers. The group cited recent reports showing parliamentarians earn over 100 million rupiah per month, or more than $6,000, a figure far above Indonesia's average monthly income of around 3 million rupiah. Police fired tear gas and used water cannons to disperse hundreds of demonstrators trying to storm the parliament gates. Some protesters dressed in black hurled rocks and lit fireworks at riot offices. A motorcycle was set on fire during the chaos. Authorities have not released details on injuries, damage or arrests. Demonstrators also accused the government of favouring corporate and military interests, criticising what they call corrupt elites and the growing role of the military under President Prabowo Subianto, a former general. Jakarta police say over 1,200 officers were deployed to secure the area. Parliament leaders and the President's office have not responded to media requests for comment, though Speaker Puan Maharani told local press she is open to hearing public concerns. French police have detained a man on suspicion of murder after the discovery of 4 men's bodies in the river Seine on the outskirts of Paris. Local prosecutor's office said the 4 bodies were found on 13 August in Choisy-le-Roi. The Crete prosecutor's office said the suburb lies in the southeastern of the French capital. It said the suspect was homeless and had often been seen in the area where the bodies were discovered. 2 of the victims were also homeless and were Algerian and Tunisian nationals. Another was a 21-year-old Algerian who lived nearby, and the fourth was a 48-year-old Frenchman. The suspect's lawyer, Antoine Ori, said that for legal reasons he could not name his client, who was arrested last week. The suspect was brought before a judge on suspicion of the murders on Sunday. The public prosecutor has asked for the man to be charged and placed in protective custody. U.S. Coast Guard offloaded more than 34,000 kilograms of illicit narcotics at Fort Everglades, Florida on Monday. According to authorities, this marks the largest cocaine offload to date in Coast Guard history. The operation was carried out with the support of partner agencies during counter-narcotics operations in the Eastern Pacific Ocean and the Caribbean Sea. The drugs valued at a total of $473 million. Coast Guard crews are often deployed to areas south of the country, covering the Caribbean Sea and Eastern Pacific Ocean, to conduct counter-narcotics missions. Recently, the U.S. government announced the mobilization of warships and aircraft near Venezuelan territory in order to combat drug trafficking groups. It has accused, without evidence, President Nicolas Maduro of belonging to a drug trafficking network. The United States is currently facing a severe drug consumption crisis, impacting the health of thousands of people. In 2024, around 80,000 Americans died from drug overdoses, making the synthetic opioid crisis one of the leading causes of preventable death in the country. Former Mexican drug kingpin Ismael El Mayo Zambada admitted in a U.S. courtroom on Monday to ordering murders and shipping millions of kilograms of cocaine during his decades-long leadership of the violent Sinaloa cartel. Zambada, 75, faces a mandatory sentence of life imprisonment after pleading guilty in federal court in Brooklyn to charges that he engaged in a racketeering conspiracy and ran a continuing criminal enterprise. Prosecutors said Ismael was responsible for flooding the U.S. with cocaine, heroin and fentanyl. Those charges stem from his decades-long role leading the Sinaloa cartel alongside imprisoned drug lord Joaquin El Chapo Guzman. Zambada agreed to plead guilty after the Justice Department this month said it would not seek the death penalty for Zambada or Rafael Caro Quintero. He said the Sinaloa cartel and his leadership shipped more than 1.5 million kilograms of cocaine, raking in hundreds of millions of dollars a year. Zambada said the cartel bribed Mexican politicians and police to protect its drug and said he ordered armed men under his command to murder rivals. Zambada was arrested in July 2024 alongside Joaquin Guzman Lopez, one of Guzman's sons. Mexico's this month sent more than 24 suspected cartel members to the U.S. amid rising pressure from President Donald Trump on Mexico to dismantle the country's powerful drug organization. South China's Hainan province downgraded a warning for Typhoon Kajiki from level 1 to level 3 at 7 a.m. local time on Monday as it gradually moved away. Typhoon Kajiki, the 13th this year, passed near the coast from Sanya to Lidongli Autonomous County late on Sunday. Several cities and counties, including Sanya and Wujishan, experienced road closures, interruptions to water and power supplies, communication outages, fallen trees and flooding. Upon receiving the rescue order, the naval forces and local rescue forces immediately launched disaster relief operations. In places such as Yuya Road, Fenghuan Road and Sanya Bay, over 600 PLA officers and soldiers have been working for more than 10 hours to clear roads and restore traffic. The rescue and relief efforts are still underway currently. In Baotingli and Mio Autonomous County, the river experienced a sharp rise in water levels, leaving many villages trapped in several towns. Firefighters work overnight to evacuate them to safe places in batches with rubber boats. In sports, Malaysia can bag 25 gold medals in CDEF games. That and more in our sports segment. Starting off our sports segment with news on the World Badminton Championship, national men duo Arif Junaidi, Yap Roy have no problem to march into the second round after a breezy first round clash against Japanese pair Kenya Mitsuhayashi Hiroki Okamura 21-5, 21-13. In the action at Paris Adidas Arena, the young duo had no problem to dispatch their opponents in just 27 minutes. They easily secured the first set with a win of 21-5 and continued on their dominance in the second set with 21-13. The world number 22 will next take on Thai pair Kitni Nupong Kindren, Dechapol Puvaradokro in the second round. Meanwhile, national men's single ace Lee Zijia was sent home early after losing to South Korean Jung Hyo Jin in a straight set loss. The 27-year-old national men's singles professional shuttler, who is making a long-awaited return from an ankle injury, went down 17-21, 11-21 to Hyok Jin. This was Zijia's second loss to Hyok Jin in 5 meetings. National contingent makes history when they close out their campaign in the 2025 CDEF Games with a record of 25 gold medals. Malaysia was crowned as the overall champions for the second edition of the Games with a total of 52 medals collected, 16 silver medals and 11 bronze. The 25th gold came from women's bowling athlete Siu Sing Hee, who was the champion for the Masters event with a total of 1,491 pins dropped. Overall, Malaysia bagged 10 gold medals from the track and field, 8 from bowling, 5 from chess and 2 from badminton. The achievement was an improvement over the previous edition of 2022 in Kuala Lumpur, which saw Malaysia bag only 15 gold medals. The achievement marks a significant milestone for the national camp and it gave to the country ahead of National Day celebration. Moving on to Premier League, Liverpool needed a 100-minute winner from 16-year-old Rio Gumoha to beat Newcastle 3-2 after blowing a 2-goal lead against 10 men in a thriller on Monday. Victory takes Liverpool level on maximum points from 2 games with Tottenham and title rivals Arsenal. Ryan Gravenberch and long-time Newcastle target Hugo Ekitike struck for the English champions either side of Anthony Gordon's red card for a wild lunge on Virgil van Dijk. But amid a frenzied atmosphere at St James Park, the Magpies battled back through Bruno Guimaraes and William Osula. Their effort, however, were undone by teenage sensation Gumoha, who became the youngest goal scorer in Liverpool's history. Newcastle remained without a win as they missed their welterweight talisman Alexander Isak. The Swedish striker scored the winner when the sides last met in the League Cup final in March as Newcastle lifted their first domestic trophy for 70 years. But Isak yet to feature for Eddie Howe's men this season as he seeks an exit from Tyneside. Liverpool are the likely destination if Isak does leave before the transfer window closes in a week's time. Moving on to tennis, Mexico Renata Zarazua pulled off a stunning upset by beating 6th seed Madison Keys, while American Frances Tiafoe launched his latest bid to end the American men's drought at the US Open with a confident win over Japan's Yoshihito Nishioka. Keys finally claimed her maiden major at the Australian Open this year, but produced 89 unforced errors in the first match of the day on Arthur Ashe Stadium on Monday as she became the highest seed in the tournament to fall in a 6-7, 7-6, 7-5 defeat. Zarazua, the only Mexican player in the US Open main draw, saved 7 break points across the match for her first win over a top 10 player in a grueling 3-hour and 10-minute affair. She will hope to recreate the magic in the second round, where she faces French woman Diane Perry, who had no problems eliminating the twice Wimbledon winner Petrova Kvitova 6-1, 6-love in her final professional match. The 17th seed Tiafoe provided the home fans some relief as he sent over 51 winners to beat Nishioka 6-3, 7-6, 6-3, closing out the afternoon program on ash with his 19 A's. The twice semi-finalists joined 4th seed Taylor Fritz and 6th seed Ben Shelton in the second round as they aim to become the first American man to leave the US Open trophy in 22 years. He will play US qualifier Martin Dan next. In cycling, David Gaudu took revenge on Jonas Vingegaard on Monday, surging to victory in the third stage of the Vuelta a España series in Italy, a day after being edged by the Dane. After the bonuses were totted up, the two men were tied up at the top of the overall standings, but Vingegaard retained the red jersey. The day before, Vingegaard powered away from his rivals in an uphill sprint to take the overall lead, while Frenchman Gaudu finished that stage in the third place. On Monday, at the end of a hilly 134.6-kilometer run from San Maurizio Canavese, Vingegaard was again well positioned as the pack came out of a final hairpin for a rising run to the line. But Gaudu handled the corner better, and when the Frenchman and Mats Pedersen accelerated in the home stretch, Vingegaard eased up, unable to match them. Vingegaard collected a 4-second bonus for finishing third, but Gaudu gained 10 seconds and moved level on time with the Dane. Gaudu had not won at Cycling's World Tour level since 2023.
Liga Super Malaysia 2025-2026. Musim baharu, wajah baharu. Kini kembali dengan aksi yang lebih membara. Menggegar pentas utama bola sepak Malaysia. Nantikan pertembungan demi pertembungan dalam mengungguli tangga terbaik Liga. Nantikan ledakan aksinya bersama RTM, rakan penyiar.
Tutup tingkap dan pintu untuk kekal dingin dan lebih jimat.
And that wraps up our bulletin this afternoon. In our top story, Israel launched strike on medical complex in Gaza, killing 20, including 5 journalists. Do join us again tonight at 8:30 p.m. for more news on TV1 and saluran Berita RTM. As always, you can also stream us live on RTM's Click website and mobile app. Till then, I'm Sahih Malaysia Madani, Rakyat Disantuni. Goodbye for now.
Pentas badminton dunia kembali menyala. Badminton World Championships 2025 dibawakan dari Arena Port de la Chapelle, Paris, Perancis. Medan pertarungan, jago-jago terhandal dunia dengan pukulan-pukulan kencang menggegar gelanggang dalam 5 kategori utama bagi mencipta sejarah dan memburu tahta terulung dunia. Dibawakan sepanjang 25 hingga 31 Ogos di saluran OK, saluran sukan RTM dan penstreaman langsung di RTM Click. Bersama RTM, penyiar rasmi.